You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. Cincinnati Bengals continue preseason play as they'll take on the Chicago Bears at Soldier Field Saturday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Dave Lapham will be on the call on the First Star Logistics Bengals radio network. And Lap, we talked about yesterday's joint practice. First thing is, what's the weather supposed to be like on Saturday for this preseason game?
Yeah, there's not going to be precipitation issues. It's a beautiful day. I wish they were playing today. Today's a beautiful day, and hopefully it will stay that way tomorrow. I think there aren't any major concerns in that regard. But boy, they got enough rain on their parade with that joint practice to last a while. And there was, in addition to Deontay Smith and Chris Evans having their knee injuries, and it looks like it's bad. You're looking at surgery there in both instances, and Cam Sample had surgery on his Achilles. Kendrick Pryor, wide receiver, has got broke a finger, and he's got a splint on that. So I mean, they definitely got nicked up in that joint practice. And I wonder, you wonder as an organization, man, do we reevaluate after the damage that was done here? After we're thinking about what can we do damage control standpoint, is it worth it to have these joint practices? You certainly can't control injuries, but to have 2 knee injuries on separate fields 5 minutes apart is almost freakish. I mean, it was like crazy to watch when they put the same knee braces on these 2 players, one on the right knee, one on the left knee on Smith and the right knee on Evans, and they were carted off in the same cart. I mean, it's like, what the heck? It was almost like Twilight Zone. It was such a weird deal. And we talked about it a little bit, Dave, but as a player, when guys go down like that, and the players know that those type of injuries are serious, because you hear the player reaction, and it's frustration, it's a pain, it's a combination of all of those things, and your heart goes out to your teammate, and man, you're everybody's huddled up around them, and then you have to, it's cold blooded. You have to break up that and go right back out and continue to play and get that out of your mind. Think, I don't want that happening to me. and I'm sorry that it happened to one of my teammates. I mean, it's just such a weird dynamic when something like that takes place in those instances.
Lap, what's the one thing that, this game, the Bears this is their 3rd preseason game. So they've got a little bit of advantage as far as what they've done work-wise. What is the main thing that you feel, even with all the injuries and not expected to play, your front, maybe many of your frontline players, if any, for this team to work on and improve upon as they continue preparations for the season?
Yeah, I mean, the Chicago Bears they played in the Hall of Fame game, and they won that, and they won their 2nd preseason game. So going into their 3rd preseason game, they're 2-0, and I can tell you that they're the way they approached the joint practice, I mean, there was a lot of energy, a lot of enthusiasm, coaches and players. I think, they're trying to get in the winning habit, so to speak. So I think they're serious about this, and they're going to play their starters. So the starters are going to go out there, and it wouldn't surprise me if they play the first quarter, maybe into the second quarter. I bet they might get more than one series, a couple of series each. That wouldn't shock me whatsoever, and the Bengals aren't. So now it's if you're a young football player, which you're still being evaluated, and it's kind of what you want. It's a road game against the starters of an opposition team who just you played against a couple of days earlier in joint practices, so you know what you're looking at there a little bit, and you're trying to improve on last week's performance in the preseason, which wasn't necessarily up to snuff. You're looking to do better than what you put on tape last week. The number one's obviously, as we talked about, offensively going down the field and scoring, the defense 3 and out. But then the other players that took over didn't have that great a performance. So correct those mistakes and go out there and improve on that performance. Show you're coachable, show you're consistent, show you're dependable. We talk about the 3 A's all the time. Get yourself lined up right, alignment. Make sure that you know what the hell you're doing. Take care of your assignment. And if they do something that is different than what's anticipated with an audible or whatever the case may be, be ready to make your adjustment. The 3A is a lineman assignment adjustment. And then the abilities we talk about, the accountability, reliability, durability, availability. Those are all good abilities. And young players, you have to try to show that as quickly as you possibly can to coaches and teammates. There's no doubt about it. So that's one thing. And then obviously the biggest key is avoid injury. God, you don't want to walk out of there with any more injury. And in my mind, looking at the what they're dealing with up front, there's only 8 offensive linemen they're going to be that they're going to count on tonight to play the game. So they're going to get a lot of snaps. And some of these young guys are going to get an opportunity to show what they've got. It's a great opportunity for a guy. Let's take Matt Lee, for example, at the center position. He's going to get a lot of work. It wouldn't shock me if he starts the football game. It really wouldn't. And now you have the injuries at the tackle spot. So now you got Jackson Kirkland. He's probably going to have to go out and play left tackle. He was doing that some at practice. That's what he played at Washington. Cody Ford played some tackle at Oklahoma. He's been playing guard, obviously, more than tackle in his collegiate career. He may have to go out there and play right tackle. So, and then at the guard position, you could have Nate Gillum and Trey Hill at the guard position. And then you've got Devin Cochran, who's, going to be working in there with Jackson Carman at tackle and Matt Lee. That's not a whole lot of guys. So, I mean, there are going to be guys that are going to get starting opportunities to show what they've got. So I think Trey Hill will play some guard. They know they can play the center position. So we talk about the position versatility, and it's very, very important and significant up front for Frank Pollock and his troops. So these guys are going to get an opportunity to show that. That's going to be interesting to watch. And in my mind, it's all about getting the ground game established both ways. Get one offensively. They only had 10 rushes by running backs last week. 3 of the 13 carries were scrambles by quarterbacks against the Buccaneers. And, you want to get an evaluation of guys like, Noah Kane and Elijah Collins at that running back position, and Cam Gandy, I should say, a tight end that they think can block well in the running game, but they didn't get an opportunity to show anything. So, they need to run the ball a heck of a lot more effectively and consistently. And on the flip side of it, stop the run. They didn't do a very good job of that last week. Their gap control was unsound. Guys were not doing the right responsibilities from a gap control standpoint, and their pad level was high, as it always is early in the preseason. And that's both sides of the line of scrimmage. So they got to work on that sort of thing. So I just think that there's a lot on the line for a lot of these players, and it's do or die time in a lot of cases, because the preseason is coming to a close before you realize it. Heck, I mean, less than a week from now, preseason games are done. It's over with.
You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. First Star Logistics is currently hiring freight agents. First Star Logistics is an asset-based company, 24/7 support, unsaturated agent network, highest commission percentage in the industry, and over 30,000 pre-screened carriers. Be sure to visit firststarlogistics.com/careers for more information about openings within one of the fastest growing companies in Cincinnati and a great place to work. Lap, because of the injuries that have happened, not just yesterday, but throughout camp and some nagging things we see, especially we talked about the offensive line, now at running back and the D line. The way that the NFL does their cuts, I know teams can cut at any given time, but does that kind of slow down what this team might be looking at doing as the reshape the roster and replenish maybe areas that they see deficiencies from injuries?
Yeah, I mean, you have to make evaluations. Do we go and do we like what we have left at the position, or are there better options out there? And like you said, there's not a whole lot of cuts going on. I mean, the National Football League has changed the way they do that, and this is a big reason why. It's like there are a lot of injuries that take place during training camp and during preseason. They want to make sure that they've got more bodies than actually they need. I mean, There's a lot of players that are going to not play tonight, and not all of them, obviously, due to injury. I mean, the offensive line: Orlando Brown, Cordell Volson, Jed Karras, Alex Kappa, they're all fine. Trent Brown's got lower back tightness. Mims has got his pectoral injury. There's things and then unfortunate knee injury to Deontay Smith yesterday, and so there's always going to be, and it always seems to be a position group or two, maybe one on each side of the ball. There are injury runs that take place, and it's almost amazing how it's just that virus attacks a position group, not only in training camp, sometimes for an entire season. It just seems like you can't get right in terms of health at a position group. So, and we talked about yesterday, that's the entire scouting department is up here looking at this, the joint practices, as well as this game, obviously, and seeing if there's anybody on the Chicago Bears roster that they might have their eye on down the road, or and get a hands-on, bird's eye view of what these guys look like. It's interesting to me, Dave, that this 1 o'clock kickoff, because guys were talking about it a little bit yesterday. They're like, what kind of a crowd are you going to get on a Saturday in the summertime at 1 o'clock? It's hot. The reason they're doing it is the Democratic National Convention is going to be up here starting tomorrow, like the 17th to the 19th. So I think they want to try to get everything cleared out as much as they possibly can. And it's an interesting dynamic a little bit as far as that goes. One other thing that I wanted to bring up, getting ready for the Chicago Bears, this guy is, you talk about a freak of nature. Mercedes Lewis, a tight end for the Chicago Bears. He's going to be wearing number 84 if you're tuning in or watching, whatever you're doing. 6'6", 265-pound guy. He's 40 years old. He's in his 19th year in the National Football League as a tight end. 19th season, 40 years old. I'm like, oh my God, they have Mercedes Lewis on this roster. He's trying it still. I mean, out of UCLA, a first-round pick in 2006 by the Jacksonville Jaguars. He played with the Jaguars from 2006 to 2017. And they went to Green Bay from 2018 to 2022 and played with the Bears last year. And, he's given another shot. In that tight end position, man, there's a lot to learn there. The running game, pass protections, routes to run. I mean, it's not an easy position. It's a very demanding position mentally, physically, and man, you have to have a great genetic composition. You have to be lucky. But man, 40 years old, running around with these young bucks at the tight end position, that was mind-boggling to me when I saw that.
If the Bengals can take anything away from this, is in history repeats itself. The Bengals have done well against the Bears in preseason, and it's surprising that in regular season play, these two teams, even though Chicago and Cincinnati's not that far apart from each other, they've only played 12 times. And you're talking about Chicago Bears, one of the original NFL teams. You would think these two teams would have played each other more often.
Yeah, you're right, David. And when you look at it, they're going to be playing at historic Soldier Field. They had a walk through there this morning. It's newly sodded, which, there's kind of a little bit of queasiness about. Sometimes those newly sodded fields, man, they can pose problems in terms of footing and potential injury that might be lurking. Who knows? And you hate to even say it out loud, but and then all the history, like you say, Hallis Hall. They practiced, had the joint practices on two fields right outside of Hallis Hall, and we know everything about, George Hallis. And then the indoor facility is Walter Payton Center, and every pictures of Walter Payton go from the 34-yard line to the 34-yard line up on the wall, in honor of Walter Payton, the great number 34. All the pictures of Walter Payton showing him in action and all that sort of thing. And it's amazing. You look at it, and they stop right at the 34-yard line on one end of the field and right at the 34-yard line at the other end of the field. So they've taken every little detail they possibly can, and they're honoring their greats. And you're right, this franchise has a bunch of history. I mean, Soldier Field obviously is, it's a walking history book. and you think of all the great. I always like to do that to these type of fields. You know, you walk out on a field like Soldier Field, and you think about all the great players that have been on this field. You know, right in this stadium. And then when you're in the locker room, it's like, you know, all the great players that were on visiting teams that came to Soldier Field and used this locker room. Man, it's just, it's unbelievable. I like football history quite a bit, and you really respect that big time. And I can't remember if we talked about this or not the other day. The great Walter Payton, once again, the one thing that blew my mind, I was covering him for a game and on Friday walkthrough practice. He gets on his hands in full equipment, does a handstand, and proceeds to walk the length of the football field and back on his hands. And I'm like, what the heck? And teammates are like, yeah, man, he does that kind of stuff a lot. I mean, he's different. I'm like, different? Oh my gosh. Can't imagine the shoulder strength. And then he would do like cartwheels and backflips and stuff. I mean, he was like a gymnast in football equipment. I was like, what the heck? This guy is like, it's ridiculous. So you look at it, and that's why they're so excited about Caleb Williams. They have not had a quarterback that has taken them to the promised land as such for a long time. And one thing about the Chicago Bears, and I think it's going to be good work tonight, Dave, is historically and traditionally, they've been very, very physical. They want to run the ball. They want to stop the run. Last year, no exception. They were number one in the NFL running the football, over 140 yards a game, and they were number two in the NFL stopping the run. They gave up a little over 80 yards a game. So it's a very, very physical football team, and they take great pride in that. So it'll be an interesting matchup. You better make sure that you anchor your pads, put on the big boy pads, because the Chicago Bears playing that black and blue division, and they take it very seriously. In this defense last year, they had 22 interceptions, tied for the league lead. And interestingly enough, they only had 30 sacks, which was second fewest in the NFL. But they gave up over 1,000 yards to running backs. So quarterbacks were checking it down. I mean, that pass rush was a factor, but they just check it down. It was most in the NFL allowed by the running back position by 200 yards. And they allowed 7 touchdowns receiving to running backs, which was second most in the NFL. Arizona Cardinals, the only ones that allowed more. So this defense, it's all about stopping the run, getting you in, second and third and long situations favorable to them, rushing the passer and making you, check it down and be patient. And, because if you're going to try to take advantage down the football field, they're going to make plays on you. So it's going to be an interesting challenge for the Cincinnati Bengals, and the quarterback play tonight is going to be divided. Logan Woodside and Rocky Lombardi. I mean, Joe Burrow and Jake Browning will not see the football field, so it'll be interesting to see. I would think that the offensive line they start with would probably go for the entire first half. It wouldn't surprise me, maybe into the third quarter. And I would think Logan Woodside would probably be playing that kind of an amount, at least a half. I don't know if they want him to, cool down, warm back up, go out there, get ready for that kind of thing, and play a little bit in the third quarter, or if they just let Rocky take the entire second half. I don't think that it's been determined. It hasn't been talked about, publicly, I guess. None of this has. I'm just speculating. So it's going to be interesting to see how that all pans out. Some of the guys, the joint practice that took place, Dave, because of the rain, like we talked about. And I mean, it was serious rain. It was just like Cleveland last year. It was raining that hard. So offensively, there were problems. There were struggles. Holding on to the football, the ball coming out of the quarterback's hands the way the quarterback wants it to, and accuracy issues as a result of that, drops as a result of that. But defensively, it kind of ruled the day, and you'd expect that. But what I'm hearing, I haven't seen tape on the scrimmage, but I'm hearing Trey Hendrickson was unblockable. And I watched stuff. It was hard to watch everything because they were on 2 fields, and you only have one set of eyes. But so you go back and forth. It was number ones against number ones, number twos against number twos on that kind of stuff. But Trey Hendrickson showed that quick twitch, man, that first step quickness at the end. They couldn't block him. He can't single block Trey Hendrickson. And I thought John Meta, he flashed a little bit, linebacker. I mean, you don't want to have a good preseason game like he did, 10 tackles, 7 unassisted, and not follow it up. I thought he had a decent scrimmage or joint practice, and how will he perform? I thought B.J. Hill, Logan Wilson, Stone. I thought up the middle, the Bengals defense was very solid, very strong, and Cam Taylor-Britt, I thought, played well. I mean, defensively, for both football teams, defensive players, it was a good day for those guys to shine, and most of them did.
You're in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. Be sure to do us a favor. Help us continue to grow in the trenches with Dave Lapham by hitting that subscribe button. Like the videos that you're listening to, watching, and also make comments about what you're seeing, what you're hearing from Dave Lapham. No better authority of what's going on with the Cincinnati Bengals than Mr. Dave Lapham. And Lap, it's always a pleasure to sit there and take time from you each day that we get a chance to talk through this training camp and prior to preseason games and games. Can't thank you enough, and look forward to seeing what happens on the call as the Bengals will play the Chicago Bears. And a reminder, as Lap said, it's a 1 p.m. Eastern time kickoff Saturday on August 17th. Lap, any final comments before we let you go? Because I know you got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, get production meetings coming up, and get some work need to get done. But I'm interested to see how these young players take advantage of opportunity. I mean, it's like you've worked your whole life, your whole football career for this moment, and a lot of guys that aren't going to play tonight, they know that they secured an opportunity that was a lifelong dream, and that's to be a starting player in the National Football League. Well, there are other guys that are just trying to be on an NFL roster and grab some kind of role. And then once you get on that roster, expand that role. And it's always, interesting to watch those guys battle and fight for that, because you never know how it's going to unfold, how they're going to react to adversity. It's very interesting to watch. And like we talked about before, Dave, the formation of the roster is always an interesting dynamic as well, with all the bodies that they've got in training camp. But it always boils down to, okay, there's going to be 6 or 7 wide receivers, going to be 10 or 11 defensive backs. Who gives us the best special team snaps? And that's going to be, that was another thing they did as a joint practice. Darren Simmons and Chicago Bears as well. Obviously, every phase of special teams was covered in great detail. So there was a lot of good work that took place. And man, the Chicago Bears, they've got a kicker, Dave. This Cairo Santos, 5 years with the Bears. He's converted 90.4% of his field goals. Unbelievable. He converted over 92% last year, 35 and 38, 7 for 8 from 50 yards and beyond. Man. Then they spent a 4th-round pick on a punter that is going to be interesting to watch, this kid, Torrey Taylor. So it'll be every phase of it. There's something to look for, something to watch, something to kind of take mental notes or written notes on, and follow along with what's going on with the Cincinnati Bengals franchise and trying to form the 2024 Cincinnati Bengals roster.
You can catch all the action on the First Star Logistics Bengals radio network, locally in the Cincinnati area, WCKY 1530 on the AM dial and WEBN FM 102.7 on the FM. You can also catch the action with Dave Lapham and Dan Hoard on Sirius XM. You have been in the trenches with Dave Lapham, presented by First Star Logistics. This has been Dave Berk for Dave Lapham. Hooday.
Hooday, Dave.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team.
Opportunity now. King.